Now to a first part of discussion for today, which is on the United Arab Emirates. Let's say we'll be dwelling on the Middle East for the first part of the show, as the UAE recently was dropped from a global financial watchdog's grey list for countries that had not done enough to combat money laundering and terrorist financing. Now, they've been on that list for about 2 years, but on Friday, which was last week, they were removed from that list. And it happened at the end of the 3-day plenary meeting in Paris, where the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, said it had removed the UAE from the list as it had strengthened its financial systems, anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing capabilities. Now, there are other countries in that list. While the UAE was removed, some countries were added to the list. And the UAE is not the only country that was removed. Some African countries too were also removed from that list. But let's start with the UAE being removed. What have they done that's made them exit that list? And what could being on that list do to a country's image and even the opportunities, economic opportunities of any country on such list? Idahosa Osamhanze, who is Director, Research Development, African Development Studies Center, and also in-house analyst at Souq News, is here this morning. I'll be looking at that with me. So, the UAE been removed from the global crime watch list about 2 years after it was put on that list. What had changed?
Well, I think it also speaks to the pragmatism of the foreign minister in United Arab Emirates, who is of course a brother to the king. United Arab Emirates are deliberate about how to package their nation before the eye of the world. They understood what the challenges were. UAE is a free destination for wealthy people. A whole lot of people have been flocking into the UAE. Don't forget that after the war between Ukraine and Russia was declared, a whole lot of wealthy people from Russia actually rushed into the UAE as a safe haven. And you can imagine what kind of suspicion this will cause in the West, because you're seeing that your enemy is getting into the camp of your friend, and then you have to be suspicious. And I think these are some of the issues that really, of course, would have orchestrated putting UAE in that list in the first place. So you are saying that, of course, there seems to be danger. Those who are not formal become illegal. And that is what it is. So once that happens, you can know even your stakeholders, those who can call for meetings, to really know what the issues are and see why. Of course, because you have suppliers as it is, and you are saying this is where your supply is coming from, and see whether it's from official source. Because what a lot of people have been speculating is that most of the time, banks have to apply to CBN for forest, either for PTA or BTA, and some for Form M. And then, of course, the banks also determine for the person who is applying. If you apply for, they say, okay, bank say we take 40%, we take 60%. And what is bank doing with the 40% is what is not known. And most of the time, these are the things that find themselves into the backdoor market. And that is what CBN need to stop. So that if money come into the bank, they should see that it's going through the bank. And even the operator themselves can also apply straight to CBN. And then CBN know what comes into the BDC and how it's going out. And so if bank is coming in to pay to BDC, the CBN should be able to see it, and such banks you can punish.
Let's look at ownership. Who can own, or what company can have a BDC? According to the circular, commercial, merchant, non-interest and payment service banks shall not be allowed to participate in the ownership of BDCs directly or indirectly. Furthermore, it says that other financial institutions, including holding companies and payment service providers, are not permitted to own BDCs. So the question is, who is permitted to own a BDC if you take out all of these categories of companies or of institutions having a BDC? Why can't they even have a BDC?
Yeah, they can, because you see, the system as it is now, you need to be as transparent as possible. And I think that's what it is. So if I'm a bank and I'm owner of BDC, for example, whether microfinance or a development bank or whatever, you see, what can happen is that if I get from CBN, I give to my own operators. So that will create room for rent seeking. So what CBN is trying to do is to ensure that other private citizens like you, like me, who has no interest in the financial service sector, we can own BDC if we have money to invest in that business. So in that way, you're able to see that somehow you're a kind of a middleman. You're supposed to open accounts with a bank where all these transactions are going to happen, so that there's no collaboration or conspiracy between owners of banks and operators of BDC. And I think that's all that is supposed to do. It's just that, you see, you have interest here and you can't have interest here. Otherwise, there'll be conflict of interest.
So the other part is this. Customers with $10,000 and above must declare source of forex. Is this not a bank situation?
Yeah, you should. And that is what I said. I just gave you an example with what I did in UAE. And they said, oh, what are you doing? I've told them what I do. And of course, based on what I do, they can determine and estimate how much you are likely to have based on your regular transactions and business. Now, if you are having more than that, then of course you have to say, okay, I have an additional extra source of this income. And I think that's what is the global practice. And that's what we've not been doing here. And that's why you see these crime things we're talking about are festering. Because if you, for example, live in some certain climes in the world and you bought a suit that's worth some certain amount of dollar, of course the police can call you to question you and say, where do you get this money from? Because we know what you earn. So if you are spending more than you are earning, it's either you are making extra earnings that you are not declaring. And in that case, you should be shortchanging government of your tax return and the rest of it. So government need to know what exactly you are doing, what's the source of your income once it gets beyond a certain threshold.
But wouldn't this create some bureaucracy? I'm looking at that. Because in the bank situation, you need forex. You need to fill a form and let the bank know what you need forex for. Now, this is supposed to be the parallel market or the black market, where people would think that such formalities are not necessary or should not be there. But if you're creating this, if you're a customer selling or buying $10,000 or above, then you need to declare the source of forex.
Yes.
So, does that not put a delay before you go through all of that and then you declare, this is what I do, this is what I didn't do?
But
how does that affect transactions, operations within the system?
No, it's not about how convenient it is for the individual. What is the most important is the state knowing the source of your revenue. You see, we're talking about earlier in the show, UAE being delisted from the high-risk index of anti-corruption and terrorist funding. These are the measures that are in place that is enhancing the integrity of the system, that the global player can trust you. And by the way, what is really wrong if they ask you what's the source of your income? You should be able to declare the source of your income if it is legitimate.
I'm looking at the process of declaring.
No, it shouldn't be. It's not difficult. It's okay. I am putting in certain money in the bank. I want to put 1 billion naira in the bank. I should be able to say this money came from my brother from overseas who is doing business, or I sold something and this money come. So government is able to actually put an eye on how money moves within the economy. You see, the real problem here is the fact that we are dealing with the terrorist regime that are moving money from place to place. And so government must be able to have a hold on who is moving what money. So those bureaucracy will not create too much of problems. You declaring and telling the system, this is what you do. And I think they do that. Even in the bank, when you are traveling, immigration asks you, if you have more than $10,000, you have to declare it. So it's to be sure that you are not involved or engaged in money laundering. And this is, of course, a global phenomenon right now, and the whole world is actually putting an eye to see who are the launderers, who are moving money for illicit business owners and the rest of it. So you can put everybody on the front table. We can see who you are, what you do, who you do business with, and that transparency really will enhance the integrity and the rating of the country in the eye of the international community. I think for me is the best thing to do, just like the CBN said from day one, that they are going to focus on regulation, which is the real primary role of CBN, rather than doing commercial activities. It means that, of course, the CBN governor is keeping his words.
All right, it gets more interesting. So payments for all digital transfer purchases of foreign currency by a BDC shall be by transfer to the customer's Naira account. Now, if the customer is non-resident, whether Nigerian or not, a BDC may issue the customer a prepaid Nigerian card. Where such a card is issued, relevant maximum credits and cumulative limits in line with relevant know your customer requirements shall apply. Again, I want to ask, we now have BDC banks, so the formalization of the BDC operation. Yes, you have said that it is good for the financial system and it's good for the government to be able
transparency,
to
accountability.
But given the nature of BDCs, it's an informal setting. Do you think that all of these operations will be seamless? The time for adaptation of this new process?
Let me give you one very simple instance. I remember I was going to send money to Ghana. I have to send dollars from UAE to Ghana. And right there, they told me the BDC, he can't receive it in dollars. He had to receive it in cedis. Because that's the law in Ghana also. So if I'm sending money to you, you receive it in the local currency. And that is exactly the way all nations operate. If you're sending dollar to UAE, you get to UAE, you can't take it in dollar, you take it in the local currency, dirham. I remember Sam was telling you the other day he was going to pay some fine, and they say, oh, you have dollar, convert it to Rwanda franc and go and pay. So this is what happened across country. And I think that's also what we need to do. Because once you are doing that, the pressure on the dollar will not be too much. And if the pressure on the dollar is not too much, this speculative activity that is actually driving the inflation man in the country, of course, will be curtailed.
So having a formalized BDC operation now, at the start of it, how do you think it's going to affect the operations?
It should be seamless.
Should it be?
It should be seamless because, of course, you have to meet some key requirements. That if you have to set up, number one, you have systems where transfer can be done. You are not dealing with hard dollars. You have to be from bank to bank. And that is the way it should naturally happen. So if you see the setup in every country that I've been to, you can't differentiate between the BDCs and the bank. The only difference is the fact that they cannot offer loan services. So it's only buying and selling. So when you get to the counter, you see the tellers who are sitting down, they take your money, they count it, and they give you the local currency. And if it is transfer you want to do, they take your dollar and then they wire it for you. So this is the way it operates. So it's formal.
All right. So it also, the new guidelines also makes provision for those who are eligible for sale or purchase of the Forex. So it says that Forex sales by BDCs must fall within the scope of personal travel allowance, which is PTA, and business travel allowance, provided that the person who receives BTA on behalf of a non-individual entity shall not be entitled to PTA for the same period. Now, others are medical bills, payment of school fees, and the repurchase of unused naira from a non-resident from whom the BC had sourced foreign currency. But all of these things, the way the parallel market was designed, should these restrictions be there? People have want to have forex for different reasons. Now, that it doesn't fall into this category, does it make it illicit or does it make it illegal?
Well, I give you a scenario. About 3 years ago, somebody told me and said, you know, the best business you need to do now is to buy dollar. Because they are hoping that you are going to be able to distort the market and the prices grow up. So if you see the movement, for example, of dollar from 700 7 months ago to 1,700, look at the percentage rise.
2,000.
Which business can you do on earth that can give you that return? So this is a problem. And this is what all of us are paying for. Because some people are speculating the naira and the dollar. So you have naira, you go and buy dollar and keep to sell later. So it has become a trade. So what CBN is doing, let's even really know what's actually the dollar need of our economy. Those who want to do foreign trade or importation, of course they can buy. Those who are traveling, maybe for holiday, they can buy. Those who are going for educational purpose, they can buy. Those who are sick, who want to seek medical attention, they can buy. Or you have, for example, naira that you are not using. Of course, you can convert it if you are not resident here and you need the money outside. Now, these are legitimate. But for an individual to take money, to go and buy dollar and keep when he has no use of it, should be criminalized. Because we are not a dollar economy, we are a naira economy. So why should we be buying dollars to keep? Except that the motive is to distort the demand-supply arrangement of the dollar. So this is why, for me, it's important that CBN put its feet on the ground, that if you have no need of dollar, there's no need to go to Bureau de Change or go to the bank to go and apply for dollars.
All right, so as it is right now, what are we expected to see if this guideline comes into force fully? What's changed, and what appreciation is it expected to give the naira? Would it then mean that the problem of the naira depreciating constantly against the dollar had been an issue of the parallel markets?
Yeah, because that's what it is this speculative activity. I just told you now.
But what about the argument that the reason the naira continually fails or has been falling against the dollar is because not much production activities have been ongoing?
No. It's not a unilateral factor that because we are not producing. We have been in this type of economy for ages. And we were able to run, and we don't have this sudden destruction that we are currently having. I just told you, this is a private citizen who told me 3 years ago, I'm not talking about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Nigerians have started to speculate on how to trade dollars. And so people were buying physically dollar to keep. So that when the value gets up, you sell it. That's what I'm saying to you. There's no business you can do to get the kind of a return that those who are trading in currency are currently getting. So what it will even mean for you is that it will make production activity even redundant, because why do I need to go and open an office if I can stay in my house and just buy some money and keep, and after 2 months I sell it and make so much gain and profit? This should not be in an economy. Now, we only need foreign exchange if we have to do business with other country. And if we are not doing any business with other country, we don't need to keep our value or hedge our fund in foreign currency in our local land. What that means is that you cannot actually determine what is the dollar need of your economy. So what you're doing is that people speculate, they buy keep, and they are not willing to use it. So it's only those who need the dollar should actually go to the bank and buy. And in that case, we will know how this money is moving around, and this pressure of not able to control inflation by both fiscal and monetary policy will be addressed to a very large extent. There are nations that are doing purely commercial activity. Take, for example, UAE. UAE is almost 85 to 98% import-led economy. Since I've been to UAE from 2007 till now, the exchange rate of dollar to dirham had remained between 3.64 to 3.66. It has never gone beyond that level. So the argument that is because we are not productive, that is why the exchange rate is not. It is the speculative activity in the uncontrolled foreign exchange market that is actually the issue. So when Nigeria can control what is happening there, a whole lot can happen. So because people feel that if you steal so much in Naira, you can actually keep the value in dollar. You are hedging your fund in dollar. So this is all the things that is happening in that market. And that is actually what is responsible for the inflation rate. Because even if you go to buy common vegetable here now, it's affecting us already. And all of us are paying that price. Because you're seeing prices go in geometric progression, and even your salary is not even moving at arithmetic because it's static. And so the value of what you hold is actually going down. And then government must find a way to stop that sharp practices within the market.
As a wrap up, two questions quickly. One, do you foresee a major situation for some BDCs that may want to get the Tier 1 license? And then secondly, do you also foresee a situation where, because of the restrictions now, there will be another kind of black market created where people trade but not register? People trade in the forex but they are not registered because they want to operate a free market.
Yeah, number one, mergers and acquisition, they are features of business globally. People can acquire other businesses. I'm even looking up to that opportunity to see that most of the BDC operators even are quoted in the Nigerian Stock Exchange market, so that it's not just owned by one person, it's actually owned by the public. I am looking forward to that situation, not just that people are merging, that people actually are to buy stake in some of those operations. So that would be real normal and formal for Nigerian society. I'm also expecting that now that if there's no law, there's no offense. Now that there's regulation, EFCC, the Nigerian police, DSS should go out there and see those who are dealing with currency outside the regulations, and then make a public show of them. So once these people are dealt with, then of course nobody will want to do that, especially make the consequence real serious, so that it will discourage people from participating in those illicit trade. Otherwise, we will continue to remain on that terrorism risk index, and people will not want to do business with us. And all the efforts of the government in terms of economic diplomacy to see how to create an enabling environment where, of course, we can collectively share prosperity will be a waste. So I feel that what CBN is doing is the right thing to do, and the agencies of government need to give CBN the necessary support, because this circular on its own will not be able to bring sanity into the market. So the Nigerian police, the EFCC, the ICPC, and all the agencies that are empowered to enforce the law should go out in full force to bring sanity to the market, so that there are no speculations, undue speculations in the market, and those who need the business, the foreign exchange to actually do business, that money gets to them. Now, as we have now, you have people who have queued up in the bank for 6 months, 3 months, and they are waiting for foreign exchange and they cannot get. And yes, some people are buying it and keeping it in their house. Those people are enemy of the nations, of the nation, and I think the law enforcement officers should go after them and then ensure that we have sanity in the forest market in Nigeria.
Idahosa, the Director, Research and Policy, African Development Studies Center, and also the Vice President, Souq News, our Ines analyst. Thank you very much for being with me on the show today from start till the end. It's been a wonderful time with you.
It's my pleasure.
Your contributions on the show, of course, are always invaluable because you bring so much to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Blessing, for having me all day today.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.